Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Argentines have elected the far-right outsider Javier Milei as their new president. With almost all votes counted, Mr. Milei had won close to 56% in the decisive runoff ahead of his left-wing rival Sergio Massa with 44%.
Empezamos a dar vuelta a la página de nuestra historia.
The radical newcomer's victory has been described as a political earthquake. Sometimes dubbed El Loco by his critics, Mr. Milei has promised drastic changes, which include ditching the local currency, the peso for the US dollar, and blowing up the central bank in order to prevent it from printing more money, which he argues is driving inflation. A group of 28 premature babies evacuated from a besieged hospital in Gaza on Sunday have crossed into Egypt. More than 24 babies who had been at Al-Shifa hospital were taken to safety in mobile incubators in ambulances. Meanwhile, relatives of hostages in Gaza have begged Israeli politicians to stop talk of execution for Hamas detainees. The families of hostages have also been speaking of their pain and anguish at a news conference in London. President Cyril Ramaphosa says South Africans should not let the Israel-Gaza conflict deepen divisions. It comes after a pro-Israel and pro-Palestinian protest clashed in Cape Town last week. The president addressed this incident in his weekly letter, saying it was troubling and unacceptable. President Ramaphosa and the ANC have expressed solidarity with Palestinians. He said support for the Palestinian struggle cannot be equated with anti-Semitism. The founder of OpenAI, Sam Altman, is joining Microsoft, ending speculation he might return to OpenAI just 48 hours after his chaotic ousting.
Chris and I were talking about, I really do think we underrate how much of, societal antibodies have already been built.
Microsoft chief executive Satya Nadella wrote on X, formerly Twitter, that Mr. Altman would be joining Microsoft to lead a new advanced AI research team. Mr. Altman helped launch the firm, best known for creating the popular ChatGPT, and has become one of the most influential figures in the fast-growing generative artificial intelligence space. An expert says the prospect of rescuing 41 workers trapped for 8 days in a collapsed tunnel in the Indian Himalayas were looking positive after surveying the site on Monday.
We're going to get those men out.
Arnold Dix, president of the International Tunnelling and Underground Space Association, gave the news as he examined the collapsed site from various locations to gather information on possible rescue plans. Rescuers are exploring 5 new plans to pull out the workers after a machine drilling horizontally into the debris to create space for the men to come out developed a snag and a sudden cracking sound, while efforts to restart it caused panic. The men have been stuck in the highway tunnel in Uttarakhand state since it caved in early on November the 12th.
Seriously, what I've seen, there are great works being done. This is going to happen, and look, we're on it, and that's what we're here, and there's a whole team of us here, and we're going to find the solution, and we're going to get them out. And we need to compare what we've seen here above the tunnel with what we know is happening in the tunnel, and this actually helps us make the proper decision, because we are rescuing those 41 men, and we are not letting anyone get hurt while they're doing it. But to do that, we must be very careful with what we do, and that's why we're all here.
And the Colombian pop star Shakira has reached a deal with Spanish prosecutors to settle a tax fraud case just as her trial was about to begin. The singer has paid a €7.5 million fine. Prosecutors had wanted to jail her for 8 years and fine her €23.8 million if found guilty. She had faced tax fraud allegations for €14.5 million in a Barcelona court. Shakira, who has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing, said she settled with the best interests of her kids at heart. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.